Hey, you're right, welcome to another video. If you haven't been here before, my name is Georgia Jo and this is my channel where I talk all things books. So today I thought I would go through some book recommendations to help you get out of a book slump, a reading slump, if you are currently in one. There's no sort of rhyme or reason to the order of these books. They're just books that I really enjoyed that I think would help if I was in a book slump. Obviously, personally, I've read all these, which I do think sometimes can help with a book slump, rereading some of your favourites, but also I think even if you're reading all of these for the first time, I do think they might get you out of it. So yeah, with that being said, let's just get into it. Okay, so the first book we have is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. So this is a romance. It is a graphic novel, so there aren't a lot of words on each page, which sometimes can help if you're feeling tired from reading, or you just haven't been able to sort of get the energy for it, or you're just not finding books that you're enjoying. I think a graphic novel might be able to help. This is a romance set in a school, very sort of coming of age romance. It is about Charlie and Nick, who are two young lads in school. One of them is the only outwardly gay boy in school, and the other is sort of a popular kid. He plays, I think it's rugby, the sport in this, and it's just watching their sort of friendship blossom and then potential romance. And you know, it's got a lot of deeper themes in there of being gay and what that means and how that can affect you, especially growing up and at such a young age, realizing that that's who you truly are, and also other kids' opinions of that. It's just a very lovely book to read. There's also 5 of them in total, so if it is something that you enjoy, it can get you into the swing of it and you can get 5, you know, books read. So yeah, I would really recommend this. It's also a Netflix show, so you could read, I've not watched the Netflix show, but you could potentially read the first book and then watch the first episode or a couple of episodes. I'm not sure how it's been split up, which is always, I think, good, because it kind of, you're reading but also you're getting to watch something as well, which when you're not in the mood to read, sometimes I know if I'm not in the mood to read, I'll turn to watching something. Typically it'll be YouTube because I actually don't have Netflix, but you know, maybe a DVD or a series or whatever it might be. Sometimes it's good to just watch when you can't be bothered reading. So yeah, definitely would recommend that one. Next up we have a fantasy series, and that is 5 Broken Blades by Mike Holland. So this is the first one in a trilogy. I've read the first 2 and I've partially read the third one. I've not finished it yet, but this is a, like I say, a fantasy series. Definitely the first 2. I'm not sure about the third one, but the first 2 are available on Kindle Unlimited, which can sometimes help. I know for me, if I'm in a bit of a reading slump, reading on my Kindle can really help that, when sometimes you just can't be arsed holding an actual book. I know that probably sounds so lazy, but sometimes you really can't, or you just want to be cozy in bed or under the blankets. Kindle is a little bit easier to hold and to maneuver than a physical book. I think the magic system in this is very easy to understand. It's very straightforward, nothing too sort of taxing on your brain. There's also, I think it's 6 people's point of views, which I think can make the story feel like it's constantly developing. You know, it's constantly moving because you're always getting a different part of the story. Sometimes they're all in the same scene, sometimes they're all in different ones, so it just always feels like there's action going on. This is basically about 5 people who get asked to go on this quest to kill the God King, and then the 6th person is a guard for one of the 5. So it's very much, I guess, found family. They're all working together. They don't know each other at the beginning, but they've all got to work together to succeed. They've all got their own different reasons why they want the God King gone. And yeah, it's just a very enjoyable book. Very, like I say, it feels very fast moving, very fast paced, and yeah, I would definitely recommend it. And again, it is a series, so if you do enjoy it, you've got another 2 books to read in the same world. So yeah, that's 5 Broken Blades by Mike Holland. Next up we've got a mystery series, a YA mystery series, and that is the Truly Devious set. So you've got Truly Devious, which is the first one, then The Vanishing Stare, and then The Hand on the Wall. This is, like I say, YA mystery. It's filled with very enjoyable characters, like you want to read about them, very personable characters It is YA, so it's a little bit easier to read and feels very fast paced. It's basically set in almost like a boarding school, but it is very like a kind of elite boarding school where you get asked, you're personally chosen to go there. It's very in the middle of nowhere type thing. There's only really the school around. It's a wealthy man that started the school, and it's just a really big plot of land basically that this big house is in where the school is set. And the mystery is this wealthy man who started this school, his family went missing years and years ago. I don't even think I think it's so long ago that none of the family are like alive anymore, none of the people maybe that were there. I can't honestly remember, but it was a long time ago. Yeah, that his wife and his daughter went missing, and it was never kind of discovered or revealed what happened to them. No one ever worked it out, like what happened to them. And one of the main girl who gets chosen to go to the school is really like obsessed kind of with this story and thinks, I'm gonna go to this school and I'm gonna figure out what happened to the family. And that's the kind of what the books are about. That's kind of the scene, but you're learning new things as you go. There's new characters being involved, there's all these like twists and turns that are kept me hooked throughout it. Very much enjoyed it, and like I say, a really good cast of characters. There are only 3 books, but I think there are also 2, I want to say, spin-offs. I don't know if they're like prequels or what they're about. I've not read those, but the main trilogy, it gets wrapped up in the main trilogy. So yeah, would very much recommend this series. Next up we have got a standalone, I'm sure you'll be glad to hear, and it is The Women by Kristen Hanna. So this is a historical fiction set in the Vietnam War, and you are following our main lead. I want to say she's called Frankie. You're following her sort of story, her relationship with the war. It's set in the 60s, so it's very much a time where women weren't seen as equal, and it was kind of frowned upon that she was joining the war. She was going to be a nurse there in the nurse corps. She's grown up, you know, with all these stories of her family, and all the men in her family have been in some kind of military, so she's joined up idolising that. And then as soon as she joins, her dad kind of turns a little bit and is a bit like, no, like that's not for you, that's not a place for you to go. And she just wants to follow her brother, who's also signed up for the army. And yeah, it's a very powerful story, very empowering, I would say, for women to read. And the cast of characters in this again are just really, I felt very connected to them. I think because they're going through such traumatic experiences, and sometimes very heartbreaking and sometimes joyous, like they're finding the joy in these awful moments whilst they're in the middle of this war, that you feel very sort of like you're rooting for them and very connected to them. I think the writing in this is the only Kristen Hanna book I've ever read, but her writing in this I felt was very immersive. I felt like I was on the front line with these women and going through the experiences, and I'm having the emotions. I can feel them that they are feeling. I think it's really beautifully written, and yeah, would really recommend this book. I gave it 5 stars. I just think it's a really beautiful book about friendship, about grief, like I say, about war, about how it was coming back from the war for these women who, because they weren't allowed to be soldiers at that time, they weren't allowed to be on the front line, they were only allowed to be nurses, that they were kind of dismissed when they came back. And it was very much, you know, you weren't at the war, there was no women at the war, you weren't there. And they've gone through all these traumatic experiences thinking, yes, I was there, you know, I did experience all this. So yeah, I would really recommend it. It's a really beautifully written book, and that is The Women by Kristen Hanna. Next we have Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. This is very different to The Women by Kristen Hanna, kind of its polar opposite. So this is a cozy fantasy book. It's got witches, it's got romance, definitely got a very nostalgic feel to it. I think there's scenes in this book that kind of mirror, not identically obviously, but they remind me of moments in wizarding books that we read growing up. So yeah, kind of took me back to being a child reading about magic for the first time, you know. I think this would be perfect as the weather starts to get colder. It would be such a good book to read under a blanket with a brew. It's basically about a witch who, when they are 15, their powers like come to light, and then when they are 30 they kind of go through this trial to decide if they're allowed to keep their powers or if they have to sort of taken away from them. And it kind of goes off what have they done with their powers in the past 15 years. It's like a test, almost a 15-year long test, but they don't know that they're going to have this test until it's the 30 years old. They're not told about it, like the family aren't allowed to tell them, it's a big secret, and then at 30 you go through this trial to decide if you're going to keep them or not. So that's basically the premise of the story. But yeah, it's just such a lovely book. Also, this edition is beautiful. It's got a little cat at the bottom. It's so pretty. There is a second one coming out in, I want to say it's coming out in October, which this is a standalone, but I don't know if they're going to be interconnected standalones, but you can absolutely just read this by itself and feel satisfied by the end that the story's wrapped up, you know. But yeah, just a really, like I say, cozy fantasy that just feels like comfort, you know. It just feels like a warm blanket with a brew. Just a really lovely book to read. So yeah, Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. Next up we've got a little bit of a different book. It is Sweet Pea by CJ Scoose, I want to say. This is a thriller, a mystery, not a mystery thriller, just a thriller I think. But it is so funny. Considering it's a thriller and there are very graphic scenes in this, it is so funny. Like the inner dialogue of our main character in this is like actually had me laughing out loud, which makes sort of the gruesome parts in this book feel a bit more light-hearted, you know. It is a series. I've not read any of the other books in the series, but it does end in a way where you can understand where the next book's gonna go, but you can still just read this and feel satisfied again, like the book is complete. It's basically about this female lead who has just had enough of men. She's had enough of men treating her badly, taking the piss out of her, just kind of ruining her life. So she decides she's just gonna go on a murdering spree. She's just gonna kill him. I'm pretty sure the first one was by accident, and then she gets away with it and she thinks, maybe I'm gonna be a vigilante for women and just kill these horrible men. But yeah, it is really, really funny. Like I say, her inner dialogue and the things that she does to these men, very, very graphic, really graphic. But because she is so funny, it kind of takes the heaviness away from it. And also there is a series, again I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime. There's a full series which is just this book, and there's some stuff that happens in the series that doesn't happen in the book, and some stuff that happens in the book that doesn't happen in the series, as always. But it is a really good series. It's very funny. Again, I think it was brought to life really, really well, so I would definitely recommend watching the series, but I would read the book first so that the series doesn't spoil it for you. But yeah, really, really funny, really good. The book, if you have watched the series, I would still recommend reading the book because it is almost more graphic. There's kind of more stuff happening that they obviously couldn't film on Amazon. So yeah, would really recommend it. It's such a good book, so funny, really light-hearted, but also really horror stuff going on. So yeah, that is Sweet Pea by CJ Scoose. Next up we have a romance series, and it is the Skyland series by Kennedy Ryan. So the first one is Before I Let Go, and then you've got This Could Be Us, and then you've got Can't Get Enough. Can't Get Enough is my absolute favourite out of the series. I gave this 5 stars, loved it. You could read this and understand what's going on perfectly, but the side characters in this are in these, and I think you would feel more connected to everyone if you read these first. And basically we've got 3 best friends, 3 women who are in their 40s, and obviously each book's got like its different tropes and stuff, but they are not fluffy romances. There is a lot going on in these books. They're experiencing very real, awful things happening to them, but it's also got the giggly, kicking your feet romance, cute bits throughout as well. Really, really enjoyable. Like I say, really good cast of characters. I felt so connected to them, very much rooting for them. Some really moving parts that had me a little bit choked up, some amazing parts that had me like laughing, like I say, giggling, little cheesy bits with the romance. And a really big theme in these books are about female friendships and how powerful they can be, and it's just such a beautiful series. I cannot recommend it enough, and I do think this series just gets better there's only 3 books, there's not going to be any more because it's about 3 best friends. But yeah, I think you'll be hooked on Kennedy Ryan's writing once you read these 3. So yeah, definitely would recommend if you're looking for a new romance series to get into. Skyland series, Before I Let Go is the first, but Can't Get Enough, the third one, is definitely my favourite, but I think you will enjoy it more if you read the first 2. But the first 2 are still amazing, don't get me wrong. Pretty sure I rated all of them above 4 stars. So yeah, would definitely recommend these. Next up we have another romance book. I don't know if it necessarily comes under romance, historical romance I guess. It's In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. This book I was not expecting to enjoy as much as I did. Like I say, it is historical fiction. It's set in World War I and it's following the young lads that signed up to be in the army. It is a really moving book. It's very gut-wrenching in moments, so heartbreaking, but so beautiful. And like I say, you're following these young lads who are enlisted and they are obviously surrounded by destruction and death and all these just unimaginable awful experiences that they're having to go through, but they're also finding small moments of solace in each other in a time where men weren't allowed to be finding solace in each other, and that was very heavily frowned upon. It was how they got by basically. It's how they got through all these awful experiences, was by connecting with each other and finding those moments where they can maybe experience just a little bit of peace, a little bit of joy and love as well, and friendship. And yeah, it's such a beautiful book, but like I say, very heartbreaking. Obviously, like World War I is a real thing that happened, so these experiences I'm sure a lot of lads had, and just yeah, like I say, unimaginable, the stuff that people are still having to go through to this day. You know, we've obviously still got wars going on around the world, unfortunately, things that people are still having to experience. War is just something that I just cannot get my head around. It's just there's just no logic to it in my head. It makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, I think this book is just really so beautiful. Again, very connected to the characters because they're going through such awful things that you want them to win, you know. They're having to go through all the, just surrounded by, like I say, death, and they're grieving, but they haven't got time to grieve because they're still in the middle of a war and not knowing where each other are. You know, they're constantly getting split up, having to go to different parts to help fight different fights, and you don't know if your friend's still alive or not until, fingers crossed, you see them again. It could be years down the line. So yeah, just really beautiful, powerful book. I would really recommend it. In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. And then the last physical book I have is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. This is a fantasy series. It only came out this year. The next one is due out on, I'm pretty sure it's the 1st of January 2026. I'm so excited for it. This has got a really enjoyable world, really enjoyable characters to read about, and a really cool concept. It's basically about imaginary world that exists that has humans and dragons, and the humans and dragons don't really get on, but they have a very sensitive truce between the two where they don't kill each other basically, so that they can, I was gonna say live in harmony, but they just kind of live civilly, you know. It's not necessarily harmonious. But then one day our main lead, her mum and dad get arrested for being rebels, and she ends up starting this civil war completely by accident. It has got dragons that talk in it that are really cool side characters in this. It's got a little bit of romance, but nowhere near, it's not a romance, you know. It's very much a subplot. Like if you took the romance out, it would still be an amazing fantasy book. It is very political, which I don't often enjoy, just purely because I have a shit memory. I can't remember all the different roles in the hierarchy, but it's not super complicated in this book. It's really easy to follow. Like I say, really good cast of characters, and I thought it was a really unique concept where obviously a clue's in the name. It's called A Language of Dragons, but it delves deeper into how the dragons communicate and how they have communication tactics and styles that the humans don't understand. They don't you know, it's like speaking a different language. They don't know how to speak it. It's very secretive language between the dragons, and it's basically humans trying to learn it, but it's almost impossible to learn because it's so unique and so different, and it's never been revealed to them by the dragons. It's so sacred between the dragons that they have this language only dragons can understand. So yeah, it's a really cool concept that I've never seen before, and like I say, really good characters that again you feel like you're rooting for, or at least I did. And like I say, the second one is out at the start of January. So yeah, would definitely recommend A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. And then last but not least, we've got a book that for some reason I actually don't have the physical copy of, and I didn't realise I didn't have the physical copy of until I got around to reading this book. But it is Loud by Drew Afualo. So this is a non-fiction book written by Drew, who is, if you don't know who she is, she's a TikTok, well, she started off at least as a TikTok person who basically just rips into horrible men in like a really good way, like these men that are horrible. She just kind of like gives them what they deserve, you know. She just talks shit about them. She's so funny. And then that's kind of gone into, she's like I say, she had her own book, she's got a podcast, she's just done all these like such cool amazing things. I think she had a live show at one point. But yeah, this book specifically, she wrote just kind of about just her, but it's not necessarily like a memoir. It's more, I guess, like self-helpy on that side, more so than memoir, but it is about her and the lessons that she has learned. And it is very thought-provoking book, and I think a very honest book. She goes into things that maybe she's probably a bit embarrassed about, being like how she was a pick-me girl at one point and how she kind of got out of that, and how amazing being a woman is, and how to kind of get out of this hamster wheel of doing things for men's benefits, and how to do things for yourself, and not kind of about decentering men a little bit in there, but also just stepping into your own power and realizing that you can do shit by yourself. And yeah, I think about stuff in this book to this day. Honestly, I actually might do a reread of it soon because I need to. I've not read it. I read it pretty early on when it came out, so I definitely need to do a reread. I also need to get myself a physical copy. I can't believe I don't have one. But yeah, really amazing book. I think every woman should read. Everyone should read actually in general, but especially every woman should read. Very, like I say, very thought-provoking, and you might have even heard sounds like snippets of it on TikTok and stuff. But yeah, I would really recommend this. It's such a good book, and it will have you thinking about things and how you act and wanting to change and be better, and celebrate yourself a bit more. So yeah, that is Loud by Drew Afualo, and that is the end of today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Hopefully you can read some of these books and they might help you get out of a reading slump if you're currently in the middle of one. Let me know if you do read any and if they have helped and what your thoughts were, or even if they didn't help, let me know, because it will, if I do any more of these videos in the future, it will help me sort of figure out, you know, books that help. Like I say, I think really what helps me, I don't think, well, probably shouldn't make statements like this, touch wood, I don't think I've been in like a real book slump, but stuff that helps me is when I can't be arsed reading. I think that's what comes to me sometimes. Or if you read such an amazing book, you think, I can't start anything else now because all I want to do is think about this book that I've just read. I will reread. I'll reread books typically on my Kindle. They're like easy, like cheesy romances or dark romances that are just a little bit daft, but they're really enjoyable, and I know what the ending is going to be, so there's no surprises. Kind of like, you know, when, well, I say you know when, I'm just assuming everyone has like a comfort TV program. Like, I really enjoy watching New Girl. I know my younger sister does as well, so if I want to watch something but don't necessarily want to have to think, or I don't want to be surprised, or I'm feeling a bit anxious, I'll put on a comfort TV program like New Girl, because there's no surprises. You know what's going to happen, so therefore you don't, you know, there's nothing to feel anxious about because you know how it's going to end. I think rereading books can really help with that. So yeah, anyway, they are the books I would recommend. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you'd like to subscribe, I would really appreciate it. But other than that, I will see you in a bit.